In this video, we're going to cover how to use scenarios in Logica. A scenario is a version of the model that can store unique values. Every scenario within a model shares the same logic, which means that if any change is made to the model logic, such as adding or removing nodes or component clones, all scenarios are updated automatically. Scenarios can be used in two primary ways. First, to create a new version of the future, such as an updated forecast. Or second, to compare against the past, such as with variance analysis of actual versus budget. We'll cover the basics of using and adding scenarios. I can tell which scenario I'm in currently by the scenario that's listed in this drop-down menu. So right now I'm in the budget scenario. To switch scenarios, click on the drop-down. This will display all the current scenarios. This template has two already in place, one called actual and one called budget. To switch scenarios, click on the new scenario, and new data is displayed. I'm still viewing the income statement by month logic, but the values are unique to this scenario specifically. For example, as we can see in January, in the actual scenario, there's a value of 45,087. If I switch back to the budget, the value is 50,000. If I need to change the actual budget assumption, I can set a different value by typing in. If we switch back to actual, the original number is still there and not affected. I can compare two scenarios by creating a comparison view. Let's first duplicate the view, similar to what we've done in past videos. Now, go to the table settings in the upper right corner. Then, select Comparison. We can now set the two scenarios that we want to compare. The first scenario we'll set to actual, and the second scenario we'll set to budget. I can already see that I have two columns for every time period now. The primary scenario in the first column and the secondary scenario in the second column. I can change the time frame, and each time period that's shown has its own comparison. If I want to add variance, I can check the value and percent accordingly. Now let's look how to create a new scenario. Let's switch back to our original view that shows one scenario at a time. Click on the gear that will open the scenario settings. I can see the two scenarios that were already set up. I can change the name and add a description to any scenario to give extra context. Let's now add a new scenario. Let's say we want to create a forecast that uses 3 months of actual data and 9 months of new forecast assumptions. First, click the Add Scenario button. A new scenario appears, and I can now type in the name of my scenario. I can choose through which period I would like actuals to be applied. This allows each scenario independently to use different time ranges of actual data for tracking purposes or for specific reporting needs. Now I can close out of the window, and I'm still in the view, called income statement by month. But I can see that I'm now in the forecast scenario and I have 3 months of actuals applied. After that, it switches back to be calculated. What this means is that for the first 3 months that I've selected to use actual, it's using the actual data source, but it's set up in a way that's very well protected from any unintended changes, so that only the original actual scenario is where any historical data is updated. For example, if I try to type over any of the values in this scenario specifically that are using the actual data, Logica won't let me. I can go into the future months of this scenario specifically and start to make adjustments to my assumptions. If I switch back to the budget scenario, I still have all the original assumptions. This means I can do a similar type of comparison of budget to forecast. If I switch to the new view, I'll set it up in the same way. Comparisons can also be done in charts. If I show a chart and select one of the variables that I want to compare, such as net income, I can add it to the chart and add some customization. To better visualize the results in a way that I can clearly see budget versus forecast. Scenarios bring a powerful dimension to round out the ways that Logica can help save time and help bring clarity and speed to getting all those business critical questions answered.